All right, so if you're a parent, you know the conversation around kids and screens can feel, well, it can feel like a total minefield of anxiety and advice that's all over the place. So in this explainer, we're going to cut right through all that noise. We'll use clear, research-backed insights to build a really practical guide for your family in this digital world.
First, let's start with a really big idea. See, the conversation's getting bigger than just screen time. We're basically entering a new phase of what it means to be human, something psychologists are starting to call Techno Sapiens. This is an era where our biology and our technology are just deeply woven together. And this shift is fundamentally changing how our kids grow, how they think, and how they see themselves in the world.
So let's dive into that first. What does it actually mean to be raising this new generation of Techno Sapiens? Because just framing it this way, it can change the entire conversation.
Yeah, this shift in perspective is everything. It moves us away from that simple, kind of fear-based question, is screen time bad, and towards a much more helpful one. How do we thoughtfully guide this next generation? You know, it's a move away from panic and toward a real strategy of empowerment.
Now let's tackle one of the biggest sources of fear for parents. I'm talking about dopamine, and this idea that our kids' brains are being hijacked by it.
Okay, let's just bust this myth right now. We hear dopamine called the feel-good chemical all the time, but that's not quite right. It's much more accurate to call it the motivation chemical. It doesn't actually create the pleasure itself. What it does do is create the desire to go get that reward again. And look, this is a totally normal brain function for everything, from eating food you love to hanging out with friends. It's not some kind of scary drug-like mechanism.
Exactly. I mean, this misunderstanding is where so much of the anxiety comes from. But as the research clearly shows, this whole idea of dopamine is just a feel-good chemical. It's just not the full picture.
This Sunday analogy makes it crystal clear. So imagine this. The pleasure is you, right now enjoying that Sunday. It tastes amazing. The motivation, that's the dopamine kicking in, is the little voice in your head later that says, hey, remember how good that was? Let's get another one. Dopamine's job is basically to tell your brain, hey, that was awesome. Do it again.
And here's the key takeaway, and this is so important. Dopamine is involved in pretty much everything we find rewarding. So the fact that it's active when our kids are on screens, that isn't automatically a sign of danger. It's a signal to be mindful, for sure, but it is not a reason to panic. It's just the brain doing what brains do.
Okay, so if it's not some simple case of dopamine addiction, then why are teens so intensely drawn to their screens? I mean, what's the deal? Well, to understand that, we need to look at what's actually happening inside the developing adolescent brain.
You know, the teenage brain is going through this massive rewiring. Their emotional centers are firing on all cylinders, but the part that handles impulse control and long-term planning, it's still under construction. So this imbalance makes them wired to seek out 4 key things. First up, exploration and taking risks. That's how they learn. Second, a search for meaning and purpose. Third, and this is a huge one, developing their own identity. And finally, they have this deep need to find respect and social status among their friends. These aren't just whims, right? These are developmental jobs they have to do.
And the digital world? Well, it offers an unbelievably powerful arena to meet every single one of those needs. It's a place to try on different identities, to take social risks, like messaging a crush, and to gain status through likes, views, or winning a game. It's almost like it was perfectly designed for the teenage brain's wiring. And the scale of this is it's staggering. We're talking 97% of teenage boys play video games. So for a lot of them, this isn't some niche hobby in a basement, it's one of their main social hubs. It's where they connect, where they compete, where they build relationships. It's really the modern version of the neighborhood basketball court or hanging out at the mall.
Okay, so understanding the science is one thing, but how do we actually navigate this day to day? Let's get practical. Let's open up the digital parenting playbook.
A really powerful core strategy is what's known as authoritative parenting. Think of yourself as the pilot of a plane flying through turbulence. You stay calm, you validate their feelings about the situation, you show warmth and understanding, but you also confidently set clear boundaries. It's that blend of empathy and structure that builds trust and respect in the long run.
So here's the big question for so many parents. When should they get a smartphone? Instead of getting stuck on a specific age, this framework suggests looking at the 4 R's of readiness. Do they show responsibility in other areas of life? Do they respect family rules? Do they understand the online risks? And what are the real reasons they need one? It shifts the focus from just a number to their actual maturity. And for those arguments about screens that just keep happening, here's a research-backed method you can use as a family. A. Acknowledge the problem without blame. B. Brainstorm solutions together. C. Choose one solution to try out. D. Do it for a week or so. And then E. Evaluate how it went. It's a really collaborative, respectful way to find what works for you.
So really, when you boil it all down, it points to this key takeaway. Instead of obsessing over the minutes and hours, we should be focused on the 3 C's: the context of how they're using screens, the quality of the content they're consuming, and, this is the most important one, the strength of their real-life connections.
All right, let's bring all of this together. Because our goal isn't to fight technology, right? It's to raise kids who can actually thrive alongside it. So what does that look like in practice?
The best way to think of it is like creating a balanced digital diet. The foundation is always real-life connection. We have to actively encourage and make space for offline hobbies and just unstructured play. And just like we teach them to read books, we have to foster digital literacy, the skill of thinking critically about what they see online. And maybe the most important part? We have to model the healthy digital habits we want to see in them.
So we'll end with this one last question for you to think about. As our children grow up as the first true generation of Techno Sapiens, with all the world's information and technology right at their fingertips, what's the single most important human skill that we, as their parents and guides, can teach them to make sure they truly thrive?